everybody, to Schofield's Flowers Social Club. Oh, shit. Social Hour. I want the club to get going. Uh, Episode 26.
That'd be
Look
great.
at us tonight. Look at us today, though. Look at this. We got some LC King, both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Some great people in my family watched the show. They saw how much I was admiring yours, and they got the discount off the Scof guide to the holidays and went online and got this for me for the holidays.
Oh,
So
that's so cool, man. That's so
yeah.
cool. That's,
And a
I
quick
gotta
shout
say,
out though. I got to give a quick shout out to Jack because I got the wrong size, and I got the large and it was just way too big. Shot him a note, sent me out this one, which is a medium with a return label. Dropped off the large in the return right to FedEx, so didn't even have to like purchase another one or send it back and wait for the new one to come. Top notch customer service. So happy, with that, and American made and top quality.
I'm telling you, I can't, this is like this is probably, I haven't worn this one as much. And I think, I washed it. It fits perfect now. Because it was a little big on me, but so was the other one. And then when you wash it, it feels good because this jacket isn't meant to be like the skinny jeans or some shit like this.
No.
Like, I got a nice sweatshirt from Deus under here, and, I
Nice.
mean, this is just a great jig. I wore this in Chicago when we were doing the Chicago 7 trial.
Yeah.
And I was warm. I had this exact thing on with a scarf, and I was perfectly fine. And look at the stitching on this, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was just looking at it and like all the details and same, like the reason the size I got large is because I have that medium, the Pointer brand one that I have, and I can get like a thin sweatshirt under it, and it's a little snug. And so I go, okay, let me go large because I want to be able to wear this one as like an overcoat. I want to be able to put a jacket on and then put this over it, put a hoodie underneath it, something like that. And the large was just way too big. So when I made the exchange, I was like, well, nice thing is I can try the medium, see how it fits. If it's still too small, maybe I'll just wash the large, get it, a little bit smaller and everything. I put this one on, I put a hoodie underneath it, and it was perfect. And I was like,
Awesome.
That's exactly what I wanted. I want to be able to layer with this one a little more than I can with the other one.
Yeah. And you know what I do with this one? And so this one is starting to break in now.
Mm-hmm.
So once you start breaking it in, oh my God, it's like butter on you.
Oh yeah.
It's so comfortable. And so some great Jack King, LC King news here. Nicola and I got on with Jack, and we had a fantastic call. We had talked about doing a collab with Schofield's Flowers, and I told him that I really wanted to bring back like the men's car coat, something that you would have seen Jack Nicholson wear in Chinatown, or just like it could be like almost like a bomber, but like almost like that tan material that you have on your Pointer.
Yeah.
And I have another jacket like that, very similar, and then it has the brown bottoms, and then we talked about a zipper on that, and then I want the collars to be a little bit larger. I like this collar. This collar's a little bit, but even a little bit larger, right? And then so I sent him some examples, and he loved it. And then we talked about the buttons, and rather than zipper on one, buttons on the other. And we talked about buttons here and here. And then so he's designing one that's a little bit longer, and then he's designing one that's shorter. And then I said, I'd really love to get. I have these coveralls, right? And well, it's a jumpsuit, the black jumpsuit I wore, and I met Nicola in it. And she walked up and said, dude, I love you. This is so fly. And then I can even tell you, I was talking with a guy that I compete against all the time. I was at the AICP Awards, and, creative black tie. So I wore this great fucking big brim hat, straight brim. And I wore the black jumpsuit with a cravat and a white cravat. And it looks so good with my Vans. And everybody's like, all the girls. So this guy sees me come out. He sees me, and I go, yo, what's up, guy? And he's like, what in God's name are you wearing? And I go, I'm wearing a fucking jumpsuit, dude. I said, this jumpsuit's from a top designer here in LA, by the way. I'm not kidding you. 4, 5, 6 girls ran out to me, go, Scof, Oh my God, he looks so fly. Oh my God, Scof, kiss, oh my God, Brandon, I'm so pissed that I didn't wear my jumpsuit like Scof. We could have been walking around all night. I said, sorry, Brandon, you would have been you would have been on the outs, right? He looked at me he just looked at me in awe, and I just gave him some knuckles, said, dude, you need to get a fucking jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Right. So, when I wear this jacket and you wear that, I get so many people walk up and give me compliments. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know?
yeah.
So anyways, then cut to, we're doing a jumpsuit with the logo in the back. Jack's doing he's going to make them, and he asks what size it were, and he's going to do some, build it out and look at it. And then we're going to talk about deal points and different things like that. But when Nicole and then we talked about a butcher apron too, right?
That would be cool.
That would be cool. And when Nicole and I got off the phone with Jack, we just looked at each other. We got on a Zoom and we just said, what a great guy. I mean, just like Southern hospitality. I was just like in awe of his, go get it. Let's do something. He even goes, East and West, baby. I'm like, oh my God, that was so good. So I'm so just appreciated to have met him, to appreciate what he's done, and love wearing his stuff. And you're looking great today, brother.
I appreciate it. I'm definitely looking better than some of those flowers in the vase back there, man. You need to water them.
Right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't do any designing. I just sort of like. So as you're watching our show, everyone, God, this is like just pathetic.
Wow. Your grandfather is just so disappointed in you right now. He's
turning in his grave, right? All right. Well,
oh man,
I'm gonna blame that one on my wife, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry, Judy.
How can you leave me here? She's in Arizona. I'm like, what are you doing, leaving me with a mess like this? But
oh man,
it's great. But yeah. So, anyways, what else? We went through the holidays, had some great times. Some of the kids couldn't come over because Michael had COVID, so he's done with it. I was just going back and forth with Denise. She sent. I was there. We have our Secret Santa, and of course, she got me some really cool stuff. She got me. Judy got me some new bands that I'm going to go take back. Of course, they don't fit right, but I mean, it's just I tried a different shoe that I normally do. And then Denise bought me a great pair of Levi's and a belt that I wanted, because I bought that belt in Pioneer Town. It's like this.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to get a belt, but she bought me a 36, and I'm a 34 waist, which a 36 is like.
You're just keep through the lockdowns. It's just gonna you're gonna need a 36. Next year you'll need a 38.
Yeah. So I'm getting a 38. I just I resumed to the fact that I am like growing, and I'm gonna continue to grow. So I'm gonna enjoy my portly self, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's too much damn work to get down to fucking 33s and 4s again.
Yeah.
So, how about you? How was yours? Oh, but the funny story is, she gave me the receipt and said, "Don't lose this." Well,
seriously.
I had to call her today, and she had to send it on the cell phone today. So I'm going to attempt to go to Macy's and bring it back, and we'll see if they'll let me in. I don't even know if it's open, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what retail is in LA. I know down here it's open, but it's like 20%. So it's pretty small unless you're in, and everyone's spaced out. I mean, downtown Disney's open for retail shopping, and it's like a ghost town there because of how few people they're letting in. So, but you're socially distant, pretty easily. There's a good amount of people there, but compared to what normally would be downtown Disney, it's not jam packed, and you can move around, pretty easily without people around it. But holidays were great. We did Christmas Eve with the in-laws. That's their kind of tradition. Had tamales, all the delicious food, and then Christmas Day with my family, and then the next day after, we went out to the desert, did some shooting. Brought the toys out, and
I saw that. I saw you. Got to invite me next time. I want to go out and shoot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because where my mom lives, there's a mountain not too far, and you just go to like the base of the mountain. You're able to shoot into it. Nothing behind you. Nothing can get in the way of you. Tons of other people are there. Like tons of other people have shot there as well, so you can see like little remnants of targets and shells and stuff. So it's a nice little spot. You can just go outside, be in nature, but do some
You
stuff.
and I go out there with guns and play capture the flag?
Yeah, no, probably not capture the flag with real guns. No, Scof.
I mean, with the state of America right now, I just figured,
Yeah.
we'll take one side or the other, red or blue.
We'll go as the purple party.
Yeah, purple party, right?
Yeah, that was good. And then New Year's, we actually watched a live podcast from Two Bears, One Cave, two comedians, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, and they showed a clip of Tom Segura going for a dunk, blew out his knee, fell out in his arm, had a compound fracture, and so it was pretty gnarly, but it was a lot of fun. We were just, laying low, being mellow, and then, had a few cocktails ourselves and watched or counted down at midnight, and that was that.
Yeah, I didn't even make it to midnight. Oh no, they forced me to stay up.
I woke my wife up. She fell asleep. I woke her up like a minute before and was like, "Hey, ball's going down. Wake up."
I think we tried to watch the ball in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then because we're only, so that would be for us 8:00, and 10 o'clock. So I was like, okay, we watched the ball. I was like, no. I never started playing games. I don't know. I love playing games once I get into them, but I just can't play. I don't know. It's just like I'm always want to be in the move. It's crazy. I'm feeling like so locked up lately, but
yeah,
what's going on with all the pandemic and everything is just so sad. I just hope we can get through this. I didn't tell you, I got a shot.
Oh,
I got the first shot.
Nice.
So, because we're my son's daughter is a first responder and nurse and everything, and we watch her kid, and they literally said if you have family, watch it. If you have family, and they have to be immediate type family, like your parents or your in-laws, they can get a shot because we can't lose you as a nurse. So we wound up getting the first shot, and then I go on the 27th to get the second one.
Nice. Did you hear I think it's in like Modesto County or something like that. The condenser of a freezer went out.
Oh, God.
And by the time and usually there's like an alarm that goes off if that happens, but I guess the failsafe for the alarm went out too. And it had all like 600 vaccines in it. And so literally they were like, I know what the guidelines say, like this is who you have to give it to first. They're like, well, if we follow protocol, these are all going to go to waste. So they were literally just in their town calling up like nursing homes. Hey, how many do you got there? Cool, come on down. We'll take care of you. You're in the hospital. We're going to get you. So they literally made the decision to not waste them because they know they're in limited capacity. But it's like, if someone didn't find out that happened, it would just like 600 of them gone.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, all right. Well, who do we got coming up here?
I was gonna say, Scof, speaking of East and West, we got someone on the East Coast, and long time good friend, sister, obviously. So we got Georgette from
Angelos.
Georgette Angelos, the sister of Nicola Angelos of Shagbag, and this was a fun one, Scof. I mean, I think I was at the edge of my seat just listening in and enjoying it. So I'm sure for the viewers at home, they're going to be doing the same. But tell them a little bit about what to expect in this one.
I mean, she got the rights to shoot Boston George, who Johnny Depp played the character in the movie Below. And I mean, he was in jail for over 20 years, and it's just it's absolutely a fantastic show. She, what they went through to get the show, to complete the 5-part series documentary and things on him and everything is just like mind-boggling. Plus, they were going through now we're going through the, Johnny Depp has had some issues, but I mean, they just couldn't say, or I mean, he's in the documentary, and they couldn't say enough about him. So. She's really a fantastic filmmaker, and I couldn't be happier for her. And let's cut over to her.
George happened. So I was at a cannabis conference shooting something for what Snoop's company's name was, Mary Jane, or is Mary Jane.
I love that.
And big surprise, MERRY Jane. And someone came up to me randomly and was like, hey, have you ever seen the movie Blow? And I was like, yeah, of course. do you want to meet George Young? And I was like, what the F? Like, yeah, of course. I didn't know, it was the same things that people say to me for years. Like, I didn't know he was still alive. I didn't know he was out of prison, whatever. So I walk over and I see this older gentleman with long hair that looked exactly like the character and exactly like whatever. And I said, hey, George, I'm Georgette. Nice to meet you. I'm the female version of you. And he said, well, I like how the female version of me looks a lot better. And I was like, okay, well, I'm holding it down for the both of us. So we kind of had a laugh and walked away. And it's weird because I organically met Snoop the same way. And I left that first meeting being like, this isn't the end. And that's kind of how I felt instinctually with George. So about 2 weeks later, someone called me and asked if I knew any producers that would want to produce his documentary. And I don't know if I knew what I know today, I might have hesitated a little bit more, but I was just like, I do, and I was really comfortable in my position at Mary Jane. It was awesome. Obviously I'm working with Snoop and a lot of my other idols, especially in the music, hip hop world. But yeah, I just said I do. And I gave my 2 week notice about 2 days later because I flew up and saw George and he signed his life rights over to me. Wow. So it was pretty wild times. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And then everything kind of started from there.
Yeah. Can you tilt your computer up a little bit? Because we're losing a little bit. There we go.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank
you. Yeah.
Yep. And so so then you had to put the entire plan into place. Then you had to raise the money. Then you had to, do all of that, correct?
Yeah. With George, there's nothing orthodox about it, like there was nothing by the book, as in like, right. You can do all the preparation, but when you have a gentleman like George, who was just fresh out of prison from a 25-year sentence, it's like, it's like rock and roll. Like you gotta just fly by the seat of your pants. I mean, like I said, he signed his life rights over to me and my co-producer, Chris, for 15 years, but that means nothing. I mean, we went to go have our first shoot with him. And it was maybe like 3 days before I was flying up to Sacramento to sit with him in his apartment and start kind of, the research interviews and delving into things. And his, the woman that he was with at the time called me and was like, George just got drug out by 7 cops. And he got arrested because he violated his probation. So my first interview went from being set up in his interview to then that whole thing got scratched and he was back in prison. So my first interviews with him were at the Sacramento jail.
Oh my God.
Obviously visually was so compelling. And me and George like pounded through the glass because he's like, this is pretty good start, don't you think? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, definitely, but at your expense, I'm so sorry. I don't think he knew how long he was going to be in there because it was for about 6 months that he was incarcerated again. So it was a really heavy start and it was a really heavy process throughout the whole time because he's a wild card and he loves his scotch, like we all do at times, but it was pretty consistent to say the least. And also, between his health and this, and you just kind of have to just really rock and roll and film and do what you can when you can do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, and I saw a lot, I mean, you guys did a lot of traveling. So I saw you went to his hometown where he started everything out, where he grew up as a kid and all the plans with Tuna, which was, an interesting interview and everything to see somebody that many years later. I mean, and then you had all the DEA agents. And I mean, he just seems like if I met him, and I know you now, and if I met him, I'd probably be like, he's like, hey, let's go hang out with George because he's just a hoot. And he's a storyteller,
Yeah, he's incredible. And he's like an existentialist, he's a poet. It's like hanging out with like Hunter S. Thompson. It's like the same type of vibe, which funny enough, it's like, that's why they couldn't have casted better than Johnny Depp because he's the same kind of vibe, it's like he totally, when they met, it was this synergy that, was pretty undeniable from what I gathered. So really just cool stuff.
To that degree, without going too much into, I guess, the documentary, but how much would you say Blow is true to story or what, I guess, creative liberties do you think were put into it that, people would want to know?
Yeah, no, there's, they did a fantastic job. They did a fantastic job, but there are those stories that are like moments that it's like it's their own movie. You know what I mean? So to pick and choose, and you know, of course they had to be careful with names because some of those people were in prison or this. You know, Carlos later was Diego whoever. You know what I mean? But because of that, they weren't able to get that signed off on because either people were dead or incarcerated or whatever the case may be. So they had to tiptoe around a bit, but again, did a really fabulous job. I mean, Ted Demme was a phenomenal director, and I would say that, you know, paying homage to George while he was in prison, because of course he wasn't able to enjoy any of it or experience any of it. And that's kind of like where we laid the precedent of what story we told, you know, because we have these huge shoes to fill as documentarians, with a pretty heavy act to follow. So I would say that they did well, but you know, there was just, again, so many stories. That's why it turned out to be a 5-part series. We naturally were like, okay, this is going to be a documentary and it'll be a film. And once we started talking to George, we were like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. It's all too good. You know, and just the same way that film starts out, it starts out at like 5-6 hours and then you edit it down. And it's like literally 5 parts was like is the minimum that we could do.
Right, right. And then what about Johnny Depp? That must have been a great experience, right?
Yeah, it was really crazy. Again, just a really organic thing that it's all wild, you know, like things are kind of written in the stars a little bit. I feel like in a big way, you play your cards right and you kind of do everything with really good intentions. So, you know, we had worked so hard to keep George out of trouble and not, you know, just keeping him alive was like a full-time job because he just like totally off the handle. But again, it's rock and roll, you know, it's like rock and roll and he's the man. So when it boiled down to it, we had already finished filming. We thought that our martini, our last shot was going to be at George's birthday party that I threw at the Chinese theater because I recreated the film premiere for him. You know, we had a white carpet and we were at the Chinese theater and it was in, you know, theater 1 and we just really, it was just an amazing experience. I was like, it's not going to get any better than this. And it was just one of those things, just how you were saying, Scof, like sometimes you dream and you wake up and you're like, okay, I need to move on something. I just woke up with this weirdly weird gut feeling to just be like, F it. I'm just going to write them one more time and write Johnny's, you know, manager like one time. And he wrote me back within like 15 minutes. Wow. And I'm like, listen, George, and when I said with the good intentions, like I sincerely wrote them being like, listen, we're done filming. Don't even care to film with Johnny. Does not matter. I just want to bring him and George back together. That's all George talks about is seeing Johnny again before he died. So he said, he's on tour with the Hollywood Vampires, blah, 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 you know? So I said, well, I saw that the last, you know, I'm looking it up now. I saw that the last show is in Palm Springs. I can drive George out. And he's like, done. So we went out and that story was just, it's just insane. But, you know, like parked next to the tour bus, walked in through the back door and you're like, okay, how did one email just turn into this? I have no idea. And we walked in the green room and George is in there with Joe Perry and you're like, well, we made it again. This is going to be the best. This is going to be the best this is ever going to get. And Johnny just loved our company so much and loved being with George so much. And he looked at me before he left and was like, or before we all parted ways after the show, was like, if you need anything, let me know. So I was like, no, it's fine. And yeah, just was like one more email where I'm like, if he's open to it, let's schedule it. And they said, what about next week? And it was like, all right, everyone get on a plane. You know what I mean? Like everyone get on a plane. Like you all need to meet in LA right now. We're going to go to Johnny Depp's house. We're going to film, like sack up pretty much. Like we need to just make moves because this is about to be another, like the biggest last thing we're going to do. And that was the last thing. So we filmed at Johnny's house. He was extremely hospitable, really lovely to work with. I mean, me and Nicole, I took my sister to dinner with all of us the next day. And Johnny like very humbly walked up to me and was just like, did I do okay? Like, did it sound okay? Was it okay? And I'm like, no, it was horrible. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. You're
like,
fired.
Yeah. If there's anything more that you want me to do. And I'm like, let's just sit down to dinner. Like that sounds like an okay thing for us to do now. And it was wonderful. So one of the best experiences of my life.
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, when I hear Johnny talk about it, I mean, it's really is sincere. And he, you know, he says he was a real outlaw. And I mean, if you watch a cowboy, any cowboy, you know, there was Jesse James, and there's all these other characters throughout life. There's always been outlaws, and some, you know, Bonnie and Clyde. Look at the history they had with them. I mean, everybody was following them like they were superstars. So I think it's like to see, and then to hear Ted Demme on the red carpet say, boy, we've come a long way. If anybody told me I was going to be making a movie about blow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like, just like how Ted said, he said on the red carpet, he's like, I think we're going to make a sequel. We're going to call it Rehab. You know, so it's hilarious.
That's great.
The sincerity, and this is the funny thing about George, right? Is especially with me working with him so closely for so long. So if you know this, I mean, like, I took care of him, you know, financially, emotionally, everything,
Sure.
For a very long time. But you just love him. Like, he's a total SOB, but you love him so much. And these men like really loved him, and he left such a heavy mark on everybody. And that's why I know that this series is going to be gravitated to, whether you like really dug the movie or not, or if you never saw it, because you're like, what is it about this guy? And really it's because he's just the most charming outlaw. In the words of Johnny Depp, I mean, quite a charming outlaw. You know, Boston George is the only one and only, and he's the last of a dying breed. I mean, men like that don't exist anymore in a lot of ways. So
how was it like? It must have been pretty interesting meeting. It was Bruce Porter wrote the book, correct? Yeah. That must have been like, I mean, he must have dealt with the exact same thing that you were dealing with, right?
we were all behind the camera just going like this the whole time, talking like, yeah, we get it. And nothing has changed within 25 years. So George wrote his autobiography on the floor of his prison cell. Mm-hmm. And he named it Grazing in the Grass Until the Snow Came. Pretty epic title, like pretty amazing. But because it was in the first person he was writing from experiences, they're like, none of this is true. Pretty epic tale, but none of this is true. But they went to get it published. Bruce Porter got assigned to it to do all the investigative journalism and traveled with George for 2 years. Wow. But again, like a snippet of Bruce's interview is him being like, and George, you know, kind of, you know, it's like the back and forth of them telling their experiences. And George said that he would walk down and Bruce would be like, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'm done, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's over. And he's like, you're crazy. He's like, that's why you're here, isn't it? You know, like, if I wasn't crazy, then this wouldn't be a thing. And Bruce was like, it was all true. Like, I can't believe it. You know, they went to Mexico, to Colombia, to his hometown, to wherever. And, you know, Bruce said it just the same way that I did. Real pain in the ass, best experiences of our lives. Because George is it's a one of a kind thing. I mean, I honestly, still to this day, I mean, I'm looking at my wall in my living room right now, and it's like a huge photo of me and George out on the tarmac of a private airport, and you're like, what? Yeah. What happened? You know, like, how did this go down? But it did. So just
well, I mean, to get anything made is really hard in Hollywood. Period. I mean, what you did is fantastic, and I applaud you because you know, honestly, it's like I've tried to get a few things off the ground, and it's tough. There's so many obstacles, but I think documentaries is a great medium because you have the ability to actually finish something like you did, right? And then get it in the can, and then all the editing, and it's just so much work. I just shot a short film here at the house called Stay In, because we're staying in, right? And I put from the producers that didn't tell you to get out are telling you to stay in, right? And it's a docu-comedy, you know. I mean, it's a dark comedy, and I've had a lot of fun. But it's like I shot it March last year, and I'm finally getting to the final edit, and finally getting the music done, and I'll finally maybe be done by March. And it's like took a whole year, so it's really hard. And I can imagine how many hours and hours of film or video that you guys had, and you got to go through every single source of it. And you're never happy no matter what. As good as it can be, as great as you think your film is ever going to be, any director, I think you're like an artist. You always want to go back and continue painting, right? Yeah. And that's the hardest thing, just saying, okay, we're done. Like we've talked about, we're done. Yeah. We're going to go sell this, and that's it. So you've just made a deal with 123 Go Films, right, as a distribution partner. So how's that going for you? I mean, it's just probably the beginning. We got a pandemic going on, but people are looking for stuff. So where are you at with that? I mean, how's that going?
Yeah, there's a huge need for content right now. Brady Bowen, who is our partner, and he started 123 Go Films. He was with Archstone Distribution, which was, still is huge. I think for like 20 years or something like that, some really lengthy amount of time until he decided to branch off and do his own thing. And yeah, it was like connected with him through AFM because we had gone a couple years ago and just kind of touch base with people because we were looking for people to partner with. And it was like a no questions asked thing with him. So it was awesome. And to feel that stability and that confidence in who you're partnering with is huge. As filmmakers, you don't want anyone who's like, doesn't really grasp the concept. You know what I mean? It was like a no brainer for him. It's a no brainer for us. And that's where we're at. So the conversations thus far have gone extremely well. It's not somewhat, it is proprietary info of who like the discussions are back and forth, but we're hoping to have God willing, a little bit of a bidding war going on and see who really wants it the most, and it'll find its home after that. So,
wow, that's great.
Hey, yeah, Jeff, I'm curious. You mentioned you whittled it down to a 5-part series, and I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that you would love to keep it in, but for context and making sure that everything has the right story to tell and everything, what's maybe a good story that had to get cut from the final product?
Really great question. I would say Barry Levinson, who One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and a lot of really just
great
incredible
director.
Films. Really great director. He moved to Hollywood, and someone that he was connected with introduced him to George. He moved into George's pool house in Beverly Hills. So this whole story is unfolding, and George is telling us, and we're like, yeah, whatever, kind of, maybe it's BS. We don't know. I'm not going to call Barry Levinson and ask him. You know what I mean? And so he was living there. He was moving there from Maryland to become a writer. He was a young kid. You're moving into this house. You have no idea how the house even came to be, who this guy is that you're living with or whatever. So George is telling the story. He's like, yeah, he was like kind of shy. And I always had a bunch of, women in the pool and blah, blah, blah. And like, he was just kind of in there writing. And I guess he tried to get George to go to some auditions, but the people that he auditioned with were like, you got to drop the Boston accent. And he was just like, like normal Bostonian vibe.
How are you going to do that? You're not an actor yet.
Yeah, a GTFO. So it was like, it was hilarious because, George is telling a story. He's like, yeah, whatever. So I think at some point Barry realized what he was doing, which was smuggling a lot of marijuana at the time. And he goes, listen, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, you're going to end up in prison. And he was like, okay, little boy, like run along, And he said, full circle, I'm sitting in prison and I see the Emmys are going on and Barry walks up on stage. and it was George sitting in the prison cell and Barry Levinson is up, accepting whatever, probably, multiple awards at that time. Right. And you're just sitting there. So when I threw the birthday party at the Chinese theater, I actually did call Barry Levinson, and he called us back from, I think he was in Russia. And he was like, please tell George I love him and whatever. And I was like, here's his number. So yet again, true to form, the story was true. Like Barry Levinson lived in the pool house. And, you're like sitting there being like, there's no way. My favorite story with George, and this is not one that like we decided to cut out, but it's the same thing where it's like in the beginning of the day, he was telling me about how he went to go visit Stevie Nicks backstage. The obvious reasons, if anyone knows anything about Stevie Nicks. And he was just like, yeah. And she turned me down. They were like, okay, Stevie's busy. See you later. And then at the end of the day, he was like, I made love to her until the sun came up. And it was like, okay, well, in the beginning of the day, she kicked you out. But at the end of the day, now you made love until the sun came up. So it's just hysterical because you're like, some of this has to be bullshit. But things like that, like the Barry Levinson story was absolutely true. So it's wild. That was one of the ones that we were like, okay, this can maybe this could make the cut in the Hollywood more vibey episode that has Johnny Depp in it. But we decided to cut it.
That's great. That's
Wow.
great. And what about one of your best stories with Johnny Depp? What was like at dinner or whatever? What was one of your favorites there? I love him, by the way. I think he's fantastic. I hate what's happening with him and all the crap over, with his ex and everything. And I just don't believe it. I just think he's too good of a guy. I just don't think I don't know. He might, I just think he's a true artist. And he's just, if he met with you and you did this film, then he has his heart in the right place.
I mean, it's heartbreaking. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because even me as, I'm a true blue, strong female, and
Yep.
if I thought there was a pinch of it that was true, I wouldn't even speak on it. But it's heartbreaking. Dinner was amazing. Our times at his house were amazing. I was 5 months pregnant at the time, so I'm like walking up the hill, like like in the hills, like. And you kind of like knock, I won't say like what house he lives in, but it's like this insane house, obviously, that's like very old up in the hills. And I kind of like had to like knock on the gate. You know what I mean? So I walk up and it's like, him and George are sitting there carrying on, whatever, listening to Bob Dylan, like this like epic scene where I'm like, yet again, if anyone wants to wake me up from this dream, I'm like, do it. I can do it in like 10 minutes, but then like, but wake me up. And again, incredible experience, those two carrying on with each other. It's kind of things I can't even like really speak on, but it was just like really cool, like intimate moments with like having the two of them sitting next to each other. I'm like, why do I not have a camera on me right now? But
yeah.
Dinner was awesome. Again, when I was pregnant, so there was a lot of Louis the 13th that was being passed around between my sister and George and Johnny, and I'm sitting there like,
yeah, because you can't drink.
Exactly. I'm like, great timing to go to dinner with Johnny Depp, and George and my sister. So I think like there was this really cool natural moment between him and Nicola where she was just like, as an artist as well.
Yeah.
They like love. We all like love to hear the compliments, and like really not even speaking from a fan's point of view, but from an artist's point of view, she's like, your characters have always just really blown me away, like really, really incredible. And he started thanking her, going through every single character, like was changing his voice every 5 seconds to
my God.
Say whatever sentences. And
Yeah.
Nicola's saying like, wow.
Right.
Because it was like going from, did George to, Willy Wonka from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to, you know what I mean? Just like ran through all the characters, and you're sitting there like, wow, just mind blown. So it was, we were there for 5 hours. That's how long the dinner was. I think that's probably a pretty normal dinner for him. But
I think the real question people want to know is, what does he smell like?
Incredible. He smells like, no, I
cologne.
He smells like, I will be completely honest with you. It's there's not like a specific cologne scent. It's more of like Nag Champa. Have you ever smelled that incense? It's very earthy incense. And Scof, I think you know the story. When I first moved to LA, it's very weird full circle, and I'll keep it short. But when I first moved to LA, I was living in a house in the hills, and I found these photos and journals and books in the back of the closet when we were moving out. They were like covered in dust. And it was just like Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, all these photos. And I yelled down to my roommate at the time. I was like, whose Johnny Depp photos are these? And he's like, who gives a shit? Throw them away. And I'm like, no, definitely not. I don't think he realized what I had found. And none of those, I was living with all guys who like, didn't give a crap to like, they're like, oh, there's a box. Don't care. And like kept moving.
Yeah.
And it was Johnny Depp's very close friend, his tattoo artist, Jonathan Shaw, his assistant had lived in that house. So she left all the stuff. I think she her and her boyfriend broke up or whatever the case was, and like left all his personal stuff. Long story short, I ended up moving into Johnny Depp's old room because I returned these photos of Johnny and, Marilyn Manson, Iggy Pop, like all these wild photos. And at the time I was 20 and broke. I obviously could have done what any kind of person that doesn't have a moral compass would have done, but I had decided to give them back. And Jonathan was leaving for Brazil, and he's like, do you want to move into my penthouse and watch over the penthouse for the next 6 months? And I was like, yes, I do. Yep. That sounds a lot better than whatever apartment that I'm, you know what I mean? Whatever place I'm living in now. Yeah. And I was living in Johnny's old room that he used to live in with, it's at the Fontaine off Hollywood Boulevard. If you guys know where that is, it's like one of the tallest oldest buildings in Hollywood. But that apartment to Johnny's house to whatever, like all these dudes burn this incense. And that's what he smells like. It's like very earthy and real and kind of like this, like raw, really good smell.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very specified, obviously. So anyway, buy some Nag Champa. It's awesome. Then you'll feel like, then all the ladies will be like, oh my gosh, are you Johnny Depp? And you're like, yes,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I am.
Yeah.
I'll
I'd have to
pass by someone and they'll be like, Johnny's nearby. Where is he?
Exactly. You're just burning it.
Fratty and I would have to go first get a couple wigs, and then we could maybe pull off Johnny, right?
Yes.
I've been known to, I've been known to play a few different roles in my life as an actor.
Yeah, but you guys all wear really cool hats too, and really cool clothes, like the best style. So
yeah, thank you.
And once again, Scof, we're like in uniform, both with a black hoodie.
I know. We literally wear him and I are both. I can never grow a beard like that. I would kill to grow that beard, but mine's a little too thin. So but thank you. That's how I met Jet and her sister Nicola, Coco. I call her Nick for whatever reason. I was like, you got to just go with Nick with me. I just can't, and she calls me Steve, and I'm like, nobody calls me Steve but my mother.
So, and Nicola.
And Nicola. So I met them at a what hotel was that? That was at the Sunset Marquis. Yeah, and I had on this crazy jumpsuit and this hat, and it was for a children's foundation, so raising money or something like that, right? And so I met the two of them. Nicola walks up and says, "Who the hell are you? With this fly outfit you got on?" And of course she looked fantastic. And then I saw all their stuff, and it was great. And it really was very dear to me that I helped walk them out to the car, and they had all these clothes, and I said, "No, I'll help you," And then Jet says, "Hey, I'm leaving now. I'm leaving like tomorrow." I think it was the next day you were leaving. And it was the last time together with your sister for a while. And he says, "Take care of my sister. You understand?" And I said, "Done." And now we become the best of friends. And
yeah, I just got goosebumps. It's true.
Yeah. So it's great.
Yeah.
So what? I'm blessed to have her and you, and I can't wait to meet your family. I just need to get down there and meet everybody, and see Chuck Seafood.
Cool.
Yeah. So you got another project coming up, right? Are you able to talk about that? Give us a little download on it, the elevator pitch.
Yeah, the elevator pitch is, and the reason why, and I will say this right now, it's nothing set in stone. There's no paper sign. There's nothing.
Right.
Literally like proposals have been sent, and it's kind of been like a verbal yes. But nailing these dudes down, I always choose the easiest projects and the easiest people to work with, obviously, that are like, yeah, we're all over the place. Try to catch us if you can type thing.
Yeah.
But these guys, they just discovered the biggest shipwreck, the biggest treasure wreck of all time. It's 900 tons of treasure called the Moravia. So it's off the Bahamas. So God willing, that's like the most I can really talk about, because again, it's not anything set in stone. But if you guys ever see any Instagram posts of me in the Bahamas, you know what's going on. I'm there in my bathing suit with it standing behind a camera telling people what to do.
Well,
so
that's all I care about, the bathing suit. How is it?
Exactly. That's all I care about too, Steve. I'm like, I need to get some sun. I'm ready. I'm ready to get some sun, make a little money, and keep on keeping on. So
I'm totally available. I can
sure
live in the Bahamas as long as it takes, year, 2 years, however, long we need to stretch it out for.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. I know I'm always going to have actually we need some follow-up shots. We need to just keep coming back for more. So
wow. That sounds like a little, I know a little bit more too, which I won't say and things like that, but it sounds amazing. To me, it's just it's part of history, right? George's piece is part of history. He's telling a story. If for somebody, if it could change a person's life just from watching that documentary series. It's like, whoa, the guy spent 25 years in jail. I think I better chill out here,
Yeah.
Or it's like
a crazy fun life I'm in. Let's do this,
Right. Yeah, I know exactly. No, we've all sat there and thought about it too. And we're you struggle as a filmmaker, and as an artist a lot of different times throughout your life, and a lot of different times throughout your career, but it's your passion, you kind of keep going. But we're sitting there like doing the math. We're like, wait. So if we just did one run,
Yeah.
then I actually wouldn't have to finish. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have to do any of this.
Yeah.
But no, jokes aside, I mean, it's just incredible because again, I mean, George sat in prison for so long, and I'm like, what did you do? You know, like what were you doing the whole time? And it's just like a very nonchalant, like, darling, I was reading and writing and holding my own and doing whatever. I'm like, for 20 some odd years. Okay. Yeah. And it was just like, it's very cavalier. It's like very, you know, it's all very George responses. Yeah, I mean, it's just, he's one of a kind.
Well, truly. I think that, you know, I mean, the writing aspect, I don't know if it could be writing for 25 years, but on the other hand, I have been writing for 25 years, even longer, because I grew up in, as you know, I grew up in this mobster, like wise guy flower shop. And it was pretty interesting because there used to be this great bookstore on Michigan Avenue. And I went in there and see the owner, who was I can't even think of his name, Sal Bellows, I think it was, I can't remember exactly, but my dad we'd deliver flowers to him and his family and things like that. And he became a family friend. And I went in there one day and I said to him, Sal, I have to, I want to write a story eventually. And I want to write about my life, because growing up and seeing these gangsters and seeing my godfather's place and where I grew up was everybody went there, from sportscasters to pro athletes to gangsters to singers. I mean, Frank Sinatra would sing at the piano, and Sammy Davis Jr. went there, and you name it. So it was like, you never knew. But when you're a kid, you don't know anything other than you're seeing your parents there. Your dad's got his top hat on. The women are all dressed up. The guys are smoking cigars. The women are smoking their cigarettes and they're sipping martinis. But then you get older and you learn about all these stories and who these people actually were, and that I was delivering flowers to Sam Giancana and things like that. And he said, Steve, all it takes is for you to get a number 2 pencil and a yellow pad and start writing, because the key is getting it down on paper. It isn't about like, oh, I made a mistake in a spelling of somebody's name, or, you know, there's a paragraph that doesn't read right or whatever. Get the story down. You can always hire somebody to, you know, write with you as a ghostwriter, or you can, and I'm actually looking and talking to some ghostwriters right now, because I wrote a book of short stories, but I want to really tell the story. So I have 25, 30 years of writing by hand, like stacks.
It's incredible. I really hope that ends up coming to fruition, because that's a story I most definitely would love to hear, watch, be a part of, see it as a series, whatever it would come to be, because that's pretty
definitely have to have a comedy aspect.
Sure, for sure. Well, I'm sure there was a lot of comedy.
There was, you know, especially when somebody like Sam Giancana, who might have been responsible for having the Kennedys and Marilyn Monroe killed, you know, and people can look it up. Did Sam Giancana or Sammy G have Kennedys killed? And he'll, you know, there's possibilities that he did, you know. But he would give me an envelope and tell me, he'd give me $100 C note in my pocket for delivering the flowers to the dame, as he used to call her. And then he'd wind up, you know, tell me to run a package down to the cleaners down the street. So, yeah. So to end it, to end today and to this end, what would you tell somebody that's trying to do a documentary? What feedback could you tell somebody that's a kid coming out of college or whatever? I always like to give back a little bit. Is your sister there?
No. Penelope's dad's here. She just woke up from a nap. So I was
okay. I need you.
Yeah, that's what the text was. I was like, I didn't want to pick up my phone.
Yeah, that's okay. We get Fratty's daughter sits on his lap, and you know, once in a while, so you can grab her and bring her onto your lap. We don't care. We love to see Penelope.
I know. I would love to. You already know our first Gary. I was like, all right, we're doing that. But it's a great question that I really love answering. So hopefully, you know, at some point the right person hears it if it's needed. But and this goes through doing a documentary or doing anything in music or film or whatever the case may be, because all of our industries are very hard and it's very cutthroat, and unfortunately the ones that stay true to themselves are that don't do anything because of money, and it's just purely passion. It's a rarity, and I would say just stay true to yourself, stay true to what you know is right as a filmmaker. Don't conform to, you know, I already had to tell some people not long ago, like, I will not conform to the millennial attention span that's going on now. You know, we all feel like we have to cut corners and make everything really quick and like, you know, in your face and blah, 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 because you just want to, we're storytellers. This goes specifically
Right.
for documentarians. We're storytellers. The stories that we're telling, there are those people that really want to know the details and the true blue grit of what was going on. Because not everyone is into the 5-minute videos or the 2-minute videos or whatever
Right.
it is. We are the lasting, you know, kind that like really delve in to get to know people's lives. And that's the reason why you have to stay true to yourself and to what you know is correct as a filmmaker, because you have other people's stories and other people's lives in your hands, and it's your job to tell that story respectfully and truthfully. Again, you know, I could have portrayed George as a drunk who was, you know, broke and blah, blah. And it's just like, that might have been really cool to get on, you know, and there's like no cuts to like anyone, like, you know, any outlet like TMZ or anything like that. But it would have been a quick, whatever, here's the story. No one really gives a shit for longer than, you know, a month. But I believe that the story we've told here, because it was not doing what we knew would be an automatic sell, it would have been a lot harder and a lot, you know, it's a lot harder of a process. But don't take the easier route. Tell the story the best way you know how to, and do it with the best of intentions, and you'll be fine.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really do. Fratty, any other questions?
No, I think that was awesome, and you know, loved hearing all the stories. You know, definitely was a big Johnny Depp fan. My other connection to him is actually through a good friend of mine who, Scof, you know, Clark, who was on the Bachelor trip.
Mm-hmm.
He was a featured extra in Pirates of the Caribbean, the second film.
Yeah, I forgot.
Was like a few times was in the third one, but like I think he was like super far in the back because they shot kind of some of the same stuff at the same time because they already had the scripts for and everything. But he was a featured extra. I can probably point him out like a dozen times in the film where he's like literally right behind the actors, but only after he like showed me who he was, which is surprising because he's like 6'6", like 170 pounds. So he's like tall and skinny and you can like see him from a mile away. But once he's in his pirate beard that he grew out and long hair and all that, and well, you could never tell until he's like, that's me. And I'm like, oh, I see you here, here, and here. But we went to the Pirates 3 premiere at Disneyland.
Cool.
And because he knew so many of the characters from being on set, like they would come running over because again, he's 6'6". He stood over everyone on the sides of the red carpet and they'd see him and they'd be like, Clarky! Like, I can't remember his name, but he is, he played Marty. He was the little guy, bald head in the thing. So he's this little guy and he comes running over and like jumps over the velvet robes and he's like, Clarky, what's up, man? And like, so, and then because he was so tall, he was able to reach over everyone as Johnny's coming by and like signed, like, you know, Disneyland has the maps. Well, for that day, they had one that had the Pirates of the Caribbean logo on it. And he reached over and got it signed for us and everything. So
Awesome.
that's as close as I got to Johnny Depp. But I know my friend Clark there was for about 3 months. I think he just lived in the Caribbean and filmed and
amazing.
Lived the
That's
pirate
amazing.
life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I probably would have stayed in character. I'm like, you guys can just leave me here.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a pirate forever. They're like, you know this isn't real, right? You're like, just leave me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm good here.
definitely. All right, well then we got to write our next movie will be in the Caribbean so we can all hang out.
Yeah, see, Adam Sandler has the right idea. He's just like, we're filming in Hawaii. We're filming in, it's always like the coolest places, and he always has a hot wife. I mean, it's like, what else can you really ask for? Like, how to do it.
Right.
Figured it out, I'm telling you.
So what are you doing? We'll end it with, what are you doing for the holiday here? Are you having it at your folks or you're having it, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're gonna be at my mom's. It's always a fun time over there. You know, my Aunt Sophia, she'll be there with her children. So I'm sure it'll be really nice and clean cut up until right about, you know, after dinner, and then we'll all let loose. But there's only gonna be a few of us. Usually it's a huge Greek gathering.
I know.
Multiple cousins, multiple everything, but you know, due to the nature of the beast.
I know. And then I have what we were talking about, getting your Yaya and too with us.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would be a really incredible interview. I would have to, me and Nicole would have to be sitting there to, to like really speak up to ask the questions. God bless her at 90.
Yeah. What was her dance name again? Dimples. What
Dolly
was it?
Dimples.
Huh?
Dolly Dimples.
Dolly Dimples.
Yeah.
And she was a real like dancer back in what years? Like World War II?
She was like a singer. She sounded like Ella Fitzgerald. You know what I mean? It was like
Right.
that same that same exact voice. I mean, it's like it's almost like uncanny when you hear it. But
So
yeah,
funny.
she was one of the first children on television, and she performed on the Atlantic City Boardwalk. And I mean, I can kind of hold my own, but like none of us got a good singing voice, not one of us. And she just like really, it was like all just put into that little 4'9" body, and that's where
Sounds
that's
so cute.
stopped.
Yeah. Sounds so cute. Well, listen, and then I keep on saying last, but not least, George. What's up with George?
George is weirdly enough, he's living in Weymouth, which is his hometown. He's probably 5 minutes from his childhood home, which went full circle. And pretty much every time he calls me, he just tells me it's cold as fuck. It's cold as fuck.
Yeah. And so he lights and then he lights another cigarette. So he's okay health wise. I mean, I'm sure at 76 or whatever he is, but he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing okay. He's doing fine. He is 78 years old now and smokes 2 packs of Camel non-filters almost a day and still likes his scotch. But I mean, it's like Keith Richards, you know what I mean? I mean, Keith, of course, it went sober, so God bless him, and that's probably why he's still keeping on. But I like joke, I'm like, if an atomic bomb went off, George would be like, what the fuck happened? And like still be there. You know what I mean? Like still be there, outliving all of us.
And he's married to the girl that he married, that he was the pen pal with and everything?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, of course. I mean, again, we'll all be able to see all the fun stuff in the series. I can't wait for it to come out. But yeah, his pen pal of 14 years, they ended up meeting as soon as he got out of prison, but they didn't officiate anything.
Wow. All right. Well, listen, I mean, thank you so much. And for anybody that watches this, you got to make sure you check out when it does sell and when it goes live and everything. Boston George, famous without the fortune, 5-part documentary series.
Wow, Fratty, what a show. How great was Georgette?
She was amazing. I honestly feel like we just keep getting great guests on this show, like people that I'm interested in learning about, and the stories they're telling are so unique and different. And obviously this one is a nice true crime tie-in. So which we like to do, but we also like a little bit of that social and entertainment as well. But I mean, I was just thinking about the other day how difficult it must have been, trying to put this documentary on when her very first interview was supposed to be with him at his place, and he got sent back to jail, and she had to do it in the Sacramento court or Sacramento jailhouse, and like just I'm sure the hoops you have to go through to get cameras in there and clearance and all that. Like, I mean, just making a film in general is tough. And so I that was just like one of those things where I'm like, man, you think your job's hard. Imagine about to go film something and, oh, by the way, we can't do it here. We got to go here because he went to jail.
I know. It was crazy. And I mean, the other thing is we talk about in the show is that how hard it is to get something going, but you just got to dig in, put your head down and put the pedal to the metal and just move forward. And you're going to have, if you're a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, commercial filmmaker, feature, whatever it might be, short films, there's always going to be some obstacle, and the train always can, possibly go off the track or not, but you just got to get it back on the track. You don't panic. And, I've been on major shoots where, oh my God, we're going to have to change it up. And if you got a good client, you change it up and you go get it. I think that the most important thing is the working with your team and being just so organized, like on our last job. And I think that Georgette was able to explain a little bit, like to some of the viewers, of like, here's what I had to go through. And I think you can learn from it. That's the thing I'm noticing with our podcast and everything, or our social hour, as we like to call it now, is that with Nicola, her sister, you were able to learn a lot about fashion and what you need to go through. With Jack King, with LC King, you were able to learn about like what it takes to move forward to be a fourth generation type company. With Tiki Tony, cleaning pools before he got to making his tikis and things like that too.
Yeah, I mean, he literally lost his job, as a teacher, which is a great stable job, but it would have never afforded him the time to, or would he have wanted to leave it to do it? Because it's like, well, it's tough to leave something that's cushy and stable for the unknown, which is being, your own boss.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be your own boss, there's good and bad things about it. The good things are is that you can reap the rewards and have great things happen for you, and the bad things are is that it takes a lot of work, and you're going to have highs and lows. So many businesses right now are having their highs and lows. I was on the phone yesterday with a major, and I'm not going to say who it is or whatever, but they were like, "Hey," I was just like, "Hey, you know what? You guys are a fantastic company, and sort of do the same thing. If you have any overflow, let me know or whatever." And they were like, "Dude, we're lucky to even be alive. We didn't pay salaries for 5 months, blah, 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 blah." So, that type of thing. So it's like, it's tough out there for everyone, but that's why they call teamwork, and production is about teamwork, right?
Absolutely.
Anything we do in life. So I think that sports taught us that, right?
Exactly. And then I think that's, what makes you and I so similar is just like that backbone of sports and having to overcome challenges, whether it's in a game or across a season to season, making a team, not making a team. You always hear the famous one about Jordan didn't make his varsity team, went home and just practice. And that's like what fueled his drive. And, he never lost that even as a NBA superstar. And, if he made that team, would he have been, Michael Jordan today? Maybe, I don't know, and so sometimes through that failure, you can grow and blossom into, who you truly should be. And, hopefully that's what is happening right now. We're just, everyone is learning a lot and, finding out who they are and what they're made of. And, we'll rise up after this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to find my Michael Jordan picture, by the way. MJ.
I know. It's so good.
Right.
You need to bring that hair back.
Well, you know what
I got left.
I just saw that mullets are on their way back.
Do it, Scof.
I just saw literally mullets are on their way back. So,
well, it's a skullet now, but
yeah, right. So, but that was his rookie year, and I had a great time. We used to shoot a lot of his stuff for Nike and everything, and I always bring that picture out, and people just crack up. I think it definitely looks better looking now than I was in my 30s. There,
you're like Benjamin Button.
There you go. I'm going downward, so look out. So, all right. Well, listen, what a great show with Georgette, Angelos for Blow, and for for Boston George, and about the movie Blow. And I'm very, very excited for her. And she just actually had a distributors picked up the package, and they're trying to push it out into the theaters and that.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it. And and I know next week we got another great guest. We won't say it yet. We'll tease it later, but always a pleasure, Scof. Had a great time. Hope you guys did too at home.
Yep, you too, Fratty. Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
All right, so oh God, I feel old today. Where do we start with?
Welcome, Schofield's Flowers Social Hour.
Yeah.
Scof.
Is it 26? Because you hit me up with 20, but
no.
Okay.
No, I asked you if you were able to record in 20, Scof.
Yeah. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. Hey, I look like a prize fighter, right? Hey.